Hello everyone, this is John from Purple Sorcerer Games, and today I'm going to talk about how I make bases from the paper miniatures included with some of the adventures and that you can find on the web as well. I've tried a bunch of different materials in the past, paper and various things to make bases, and I finally figured the best for me was actually using foam for the base. And the process that I go by is pretty straightforward. First, you'll want to pick up some foam like this from your craft store. They sell them in little sheets. I like to have it doubly thick for the base. And so what I do is I put the foam into my line cutter. You could use scissors. And you'll want to cut it slightly wider than the space that you'll be using for your base. Voila! So then you take this piece of foam, and I will use my 3-in-1 glue. The advantage of using a glue like this is that it sets quickly, but not so quickly that you don't have time to adjust things. And not such a big deal when you're doing really, kind of crude gluing like this, but when you're building things like houses and dungeon walls, it can be a real lifesaver. So then you just take it, fold it in half. I like to use my round roller to press down. Also, if you snip off the end, then you don't get that pressure from the fold pulling up on the edge. You can actually put this under a weight if you want. 3 or 4 minutes, it'll get nicely all stuck together. But I have one that I've created previously here. So then all you do is you take your foam and you cut it off in a roughly square shape, and then take your scissors and cut it into a circle. Now I have used a circular punch in the past, but with foam it just kind of deforms the foam so much that you end up having to trim it up with scissors anyways, so it's actually quicker for me just to use scissors from the start. Once you've cut it into your circle, then you just go and you take and you cut that piece in half. Then now it's time to mount it onto the base. I have a number of these slot plastic bases lying around. I actually prefer the smooth-edged 1-inch circles of wood that you can get from craft stores, but I couldn't find any lying around. But I have tons of these, and they work just great. So then you just take your glue and you apply it roughly the shape of your circle. And you take your 2 foam pieces, place it on, and then snug them up against each other pretty tightly. And then take that and press down, or you can even turn it upside down. Press down. And then there you go. Now you just have to set this aside and let it dry. You're not going to want to put your paper miniature into this too quickly, because if the glue hasn't dried and you put the paper down in there, then it can stick to the paper and can tear your paper or whatever. But then after 5-10 minutes, whatever, after it's dried, you have something like this. And now you have this nice little slot that you can go and slip your paper miniature into. It holds it on really snugly. Great on the tabletop. Pulls out really easy. Permanent solution. Now what I do cosmetically at this point is I will take kind of a ratty brush, paint the entire thing black, and then dry brush it with silver, which gives it a nice look that works for dungeons, cities. You could also use your little pebbles or lichen with glue that you could do for your bases if you wanted to fancy them up. But that gives you a good look. Now the huge advantage of having it where the paper miniature and the base are not permanently connected is that you can store hundreds of these in like a slotted plastic container. And you can even separate them by encounter, so that when you have the encounter come up, you reach in, you grab all those miniatures for that encounter, slap them into their bases, get them on the table. So you get the advantage of having these adventure-specific miniatures, and yet it also doesn't slow things, but it doesn't slow things down much, and it's also very, very portable. So you can take all this stuff in one little container to your game session, which can be really, really useful. So that is how I do bases. Maybe that you'll find that useful, and thanks for listening.